Hello, this is a brief video demonstration, or rather a not so brief video demonstration, on where I'm going to go over my map that I made called Grapple Haven. Oh my goodness gracious, every time I start recording these videos, I'm gassy as all hell, and I'm sick of it. But anywho, without delaying anything, we are simply going to get right into it. This is more so going to be a me rambling video. I will try and go over these scripts as quickly as I can to make them efficient. If you guys are curious, if you've looked at this map and you're like, oh, there's all stuff going on here, well, we're gonna look at that today. But mainly I just want to look at my map with the knowledge that I have gained and basically self-criticize and see what all I could have done better and what I did wrong, what I was learning, blah 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 blah. But to start off my points, this map, or rather this game mode in its entirety, is a video game idea I've had for the longest time, in which you have a map where you don't have a floor that you can climb around on, where everybody only has a grappling hook and a knife. That was the original game idea that I had, and when Halo Forge came out, I realized I could make that a reality and use a couple of the mechanics that are in Halo Infinite naturally in order to amplify the game mode in a sense, such as being able to have a repulsor and make that a part of the game balance. Now, the first thing I wanted to do is nail down the feeling of movement. I do not actually change the gravity at all on start. Everything in this game mode is scripted to function as intended. So we do move at double speed. That was a late change to just kind of make, once you are on the ground, feel that much more speedy, and I need to get back up there. I want to go. And then we also have more jump height, but we do not have low gravity. I simply set the player's jump height to magnify or scale itself by 1.5. We do still have regular gravity, so when you stop moving, you fall at a normal rate. The second thing that I do with gravity via scripts is on equipment use, we get a little bit of hang time. And the reason I did that is because without that hang time, you really don't have a lot of time to think with the regular grapple hook. Or, repulsing or jumping in general. So once you use your grapple hook, you get a little bit of time to think, and then gravity takes its hold back over you. So these are just little tiny changes that I made to ensure that you have plenty of time to think in the air. You can engage with other players without having to worry about falling down constantly. You can save yourself and just give you a lot more control over your movement while you're in the air. There are a few exploits with this, such as crouching repeatedly. So if you could forego the grapple hook and just kind of do this. And that does kind of break the map a little bit. I don't really have a solution for that just yet, but I'm sure I can think of something now with my current knowledge of scripting. But one thing I do really like is on the flip side, you can use that to make your grapple hook way more efficient. So if you do grapple hook, crouch real quick between grapples, you can refresh your grapple hook instantly and do a lot more maneuverability things that you are not able to do when waiting for it to move naturally. But let's go ahead and have a gander at the script itself for the game mode, which may or may not need refining. I won't lie, it's been a second since I've looked to this, and I might open this up and Forge may have just decided to completely break. I have looked at a couple of my scripts, and they are honestly just straight up like missing a ton of nodes. Like if we go into these rotate object points, this isn't connected, but it's working. And if we go over here to this one, the script is just gone. It's gone, but I tested it, it is functioning entirely, but like nothing is connected. Half the stuff just doesn't function, but at the same time it is working 100% as intended. So some of these I might open up and be met with a surprise. I figured it'd be funnier if I just waited. But as for the game mode itself, here is where we started, and we actually have my first script I ever made lurking around inside here, which is right here. The very first thing that I did in Forge was this. I had to go to a Discord and ask on a couple of subreddits because I could not get this to work. When I crouched, I'd get a weapon, but then it'd get the weapon again upon crouching again, and that's when I learned what a condition is. On the condition that a player is crouching, give them an equipment, and if they are not crouching, give them this other equipment, and that's what handles the, when you crouch, get a repulsor, when you stand up, get a grapple hook. But going into that a bit, we have our repulsor to kind of balance out the game mode a bit, to make sure that once you get grappled, you have a chance to save yourself. Because I have put in a trait here, somewhere lurking around this area. Nope, I have a trait right here. So this trait right here, when you receive damage in this game mode, pardon the gas, when you receive damage in this game mode, you get a brief moment of anti-gravity, and you are also not able to fire your weapon, and this lasts for, I believe, 1 second. Where is that? There should be an on-object damage somewhere around here that says apply trait. It's probably like right in front of me. I'm sure people are looking at it right now and saying it's right there, you idiot. One player mark for each player, blah blah blah. I'm actually not seeing it. Oh wait, it's this right here, because we don't have a on-object damage does not apply to players. So the workaround for that is I am monitoring every player's shields, and on the condition that your shield is less than max, we apply the trait for 1 second. There's probably an issue in here. I have this set to apply every half a second, so this bad boy is probably proccing every half a second once your shields are down. So this trait is probably constantly applying itself. That's something that will likely need to get fixed. But yeah, when you get damaged, you're not allowed to attack back for 1 second, and you get a little bit of anti-grab. And that's to make it so that once you are fighting mid-air, you have a lot of time to engage with each other. You know, you can do a lot of clashes, but you can't do repeated clashes if you both clash, because you both take a little bit of damage. So you have to float there for a second, look at each other, and when you're floating there, that's when you use, you know, your repulsor and your grapple hook. So you're grappling each other and repulsing each other and trying to swing at each other, and it creates this cool kind of screw it, let's call it Dragon Ball Z kind of engagement up in the air. But to elaborate on that a bit further, actually there's nothing really more to elaborate. That's functioning 100% as intended, but that does need to get fixed. That is not going to work as intended, or at least as I originally intended. That is a pretty poor script, in all honesty, if I'm criticizing my old self. But good try, you know, for a very first, you know, game mode. This definitely will need to get remade. Let's go ahead and look at some of the scripts that are currently on the map as far as balancing goes. If you've ever played this game mode, or on my map, you've noticed that there are these fun little scripts running around, and these were my first translate object to point scripts. First I just kind of had them going up and down, but I decided it would be way cooler if these dudes acted as elevators to kind of pull you around and yank you around the map and give you a lot more control over where you were going. And also they have a passive buff on them, where once you use them, you actually get some dynamo grenades, and these dynamo grenades have a bigger radius than normal, and I figured that they would complement the game mode pretty well. So let's go ahead and have a gander at the script that is involved with that. This script also probably has some issues with it. I'm sure I could refine it, but on the condition that the object is damaged and it is a player that is grappling, we will translate the object to point. And I am using these arrows as object references because I did not make this map centered around 0, so just typing in vectors was kind of hard. This map definitely needs a re-looking at, but I'm pretty proud of it for, you know, a very first map in Halo Forge. But so we're referencing these objects, and we're just moving this guy between these two objects. Now, the condition in which you get a grenade is right here, and this is applied on every single elevator, is what I call these. On object damage, if it is a player that is grappling, adjust their grenades to +1 for 1 iteration on this guy, and then wait for 7 seconds and then remove the grenade. That is to make sure that players cannot constantly stack grenades and to keep it pretty balanced. Now, let's go into another scripting thing. This is actually one of my other most popular videos, and that's just making these dudes like this rotate. So, I call these my slingshots. They go upward, and then they fling you up in the air, then once you let go of them, they go back down. These guys give you a trait which makes you invisible for a time, and gives you a lot of anti-gravity. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Again, that probably is just more of me not understanding scripting as much at the time. But yeah, the idea was if you're down there and you want to come up, I don't want you to be a sitting target up in the air, so I wanted you to get a brief buff of invisibility so that you actually have the chance to get away. So when you're invisible, you know, you're a little bit harder to see, they don't know if they're about to repulse or grapple to somewhere else, etc., etc. All of those work the same, and these guys actually give you, they either give you 3 or 2 grenades, if I recall. Yes, they give you 3 grenades, and then they also have the decay of 7 seconds, so every 7 seconds you will have a grenade taken away from you. Actually, I might have been smart about it and said, you know what, we might need to make that a bit faster. So let's go ahead and look at what the grenade decay is on these dudes. Adjust player grenades for... Nope, we still have every 7 seconds on there for these guys. But, oh wait, I didn't even go into the script for it, I'm sorry. So this is the script that handles the rotation of the objects on the condition that it is damaged by a player that is grappling. We're going to rotate the object to point, and I am using the vector coordinate rotations of these guys. The default position is this over here. If you click on the object, set it to rotation, these are the coordinates that you're messing with these, with rotating. So we rotate it to a point, and the point we are rotating is the y-axis. If we flip this around, you see the y-axis is the green right here, right there. So we're going to rotate on the other side of the axis with that, and we're just going to make it go a solid negative 90 degrees. Very simple script. It was very fun to work that one out. I will give the disclaimer that, like I'm sure many people are discovering, all this stuff was super freaking hard for me when I first started. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, and I thought this was like the most complicated thing that I could ever hope to do in Forge scripting. Like this right here. I was so unbelievably proud of making this happen, and you should be. It's cool when you figure stuff out. Scripting is cool. This is all super cool. Don't talk. I can talk myself down. Don't talk yourself down. Let's go ahead and get into the next script that I went and figured out on my own. That is those booster rings right there. When I design game modes or maps, or even these all the video game ideas that I have, which I write down, I have a rule of 3s that I follow. So when you have a map, you need 3 things that are, you know, points of interest. Or if you're making a game mode, you need 3 mechanics that you're focusing on. The 3 mechanics I'm focusing on is the more advanced movement, the changing your grapple and such when you're like moving around, and also the focus on melee combat. Those are the 3 mechanics behind this game mode. As far as the map is concerned, we have 3 kinds of upgrades. We have our regular elevators, which are their own fun little event. Then we have the slingshots, which are a stronger version of the elevators, give you a little buff, they give you more grenades, and they give you anti-gravity and make you invisible. Then we have these dudes, which are the 3rd element, and these are the super duper go get them, kill them all buff. Where you get tossed up in the air, and for 15 seconds you get a heat wave that shoots tracking rockets. When you switch it to this mode, it will actually lock onto players, and you can shoot... oh, actually, no, I had it mixed up. There was another combination of weapons that I found where you can actually use the tracker rockets when you do right-click. But yeah, you get unlimited, or you get grenades... Correction, you get a lot of grenades. And those grenades do not have a decay on them. Sometimes it doesn't work. I actually have no idea why, even with my current scripting knowledge. But you get 8 grenades that should not have a decay on them. The grenades that come off of that will have a decay, but you're stacking those 2 together because I wanted people to get a lot of airtime to just kind of rain hell on the map. This is using an M41 tracker, so when people get close, all those rockets will track when you just left-click. But yeah, I wanted to add a little something to add a little bit of ranged battle. I didn't want it initially in the game mode because I thought it would be too OP, but then I had realized that you know, everybody has repulsors. Yeah, you get tracked by this insane rocket that'll be following you to the end of time, but you have a repulsor. You can repulse literally every rocket that comes your way, so I figured it balanced itself out a bit. Let's go ahead and look at the script on this guy. This one looks a bit more complicated, but like with a lot of scripts that involve stuff like this is mostly just polished. This is like, actually, no, I'm full of it. This isn't polished. This is all absolutely necessary. These spawn objects and delete objects, that's polished. That's where I spawned the explosion and stuff to give it a little bit more flair, because when you went through the ring, I wanted it to be very noticeable. Like, oh, look, you launched in the air, you get to just rain hell on everybody, blah, 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 blah. But once a player enters the area, we are going to... why did I have that twice? Oh yeah, so the first things first, we set their velocity. I could have just strung this together. I didn't need this second object entered area. But yeah, when an object enters the area, set its velocity to 100 on the z-axis. So launch them straight up at 100 miles per hour, sure, whatever. And then we give you the trait. These are the traits that you get applied. And then we come down here. This is the trait sets. I called it Hayya. Give them some grenades, give them a new weapon, switch to that weapon, force switch to it, wait for 15 seconds, then get rid of all their grenades, and then give them back a regular energy sword. It was nice and simple, easy to figure out. This is something that I figured out after learning everything else, and I was able to figure this one out on my own. It was something I was very proud of. Now, we'll go up to the last and what I dub as feature creep on this map, which is this bit right here. And when I say feature creep, I mean that in the truest sense. This was never supposed to exist. I call it the Black Diamond. This was more so me just figuring out a whole bunch of new scripts, trying to make a very complicated, fun little thing to happen up here on the top of the map. Because I realized, you know, when there's a lot of people on the map, everything flows nice and smooth and the game mode functions as intended, but when there's only 2 people on the map, the game mode gets really, you know, difficult to find each other. It's not a huge map, but you're both flying around and you can't really keep track of one another, and you don't really know what's all going on. It becomes more of like a hide and seek, find the person, one of you gets the kill, and then it turns into hide and seek again. So to kind of mitigate that, specifically for me and my friends, I created this Black Diamond set piece up here. And what this is basically a dueling arena. In the purest sense of the word. So when 2 players set foot into here, they will both be given a duelist energy sword, and whoever wins that duel is given a gravity hammer. I think it's called like the Diminisher of Hope. But this only activates when there are 2 people. So on the condition that it is Forge mode, spawn a bot on player mark, and that bot will spawn up here, and there we go. You get a little splash, tells you to eliminate the person across from you. Your trait set completely changes here. You do get, like, anti-gravity, and the idiot flew down. That's probably one of the things that changed my, messed up most of my video. But when 2 people are up here, maybe if I can spawn another guy. There we go. So my objective is to kill him. We have more traits, you swing way faster. Your shields come back way faster. If you get 2 quick hits fast enough, you get this map away. And then you basically get to go dominate the map with this for a little bit. There is also a secondary thing, which just happens naturally on the map. Anytime you get a kill on this map, you get a Blood Blade. And that's to show that that person has got a kill. They are not fresh, they're out for blood. But let's go ahead and have a look at what's going on with this script, because there's a lot of stuff going on with this one that is, again, I say, 100% feature creep. This is just me adding stuff for the sake of adding stuff. So open up this script. We have a lot of stuff going on in here, and I won't lie, I needed to reach out to a friend who is actually, you know, privy with coding to figure out how to do this. So with this one, when this is where I had to learn a lot about variables, and at the time it just did not click in my head. It was very difficult for me to wrap my head around, and that's why I actually have a turret video that will be out before this one, where I talk about setting object variables and such, and you can see here that scripts are getting disconnected and whatnot and not working. And that's just Forge being Forge. But yeah, I didn't understand variables very well, and even when being explicitly told how variables work in a scripting sense, it still didn't click with me. It was just hard for some reason. I get it now, but it was hard. It was very hard for me to understand. So what we do is, when an object steps into the area, and on the condition that an object is a player, we are going to set them as a variable. And that's something very simple that I've done in pretty much every video now that involves tracking the player. We have some stuff like adding them to a list because we want to specify all the players in that area, and we do a bunch of mumbo jumbo where we have a initial trigger, which is when 2 players step into this. this activates. And what this is a condition. Let's go down here. I got this slipstream down here, which this is actually your main like battlegrounds. As long as 2 players are inside this area, they get the traits and the weapons, and they're faster and stronger and blah 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 blah. But if both players step outside of this middle ring, or this second ring, if both players get outside of that, the bottom effect, which is this slipstream right here, disappears, and then the traits go away. You get to keep your sword, but your traits will go away. And what kind of led into that, honestly, all that complicated scripting to make sure that game mode actually worked right, is because if you got that power up and then came through the teleporter down here and went up and bumped off this diamond, you would lose your power up. And I just went through a way to get rid of that, and then it turned into like, oh, you know what, I'll turn that into like a dueling arena and make a bunch of stuff happen up here, and then the black diamond was born, and it's pretty wild. That thing honestly would probably deserve its own video about how it functions and how it works, so I won't go too into it right now unless people explicitly ask me. Again, this is just a ramble video. I don't even expect this to get a lot of views. But bottom line, it was a solution to this. Once you go up here and get launched here, I didn't want people getting the weapons once they hit that little diamond piece right there. But that is pretty much all of what goes into my map, Grapple Haven. At the time, it seemed extremely complicated and like it was probably one of the hardest things that I would ever make, but now I'm looking at it and all I see are mistakes upon mistakes upon mistakes. I could make this so much better now. I could make this entire map rotating if I wanted. Maybe not these pieces that like do stuff when you touch them, just because Forge's got kind of weird limitations, but it's whatever. So that was my little ramble video on Grapple Haven, how it works, why I made it, the decisions I made about design, etc., etc. If you guys want anything else kind of like this video where I just go into random detail about something that I've made, or for whatever reason you like hearing me talk, let me know and I'll make more nonsense videos like this.